Are you thinking about moving to the city of Houston, but not quite sure if the suburbs or the city is a better fit for you? In this video, I'm gonna kind of go over the pros and cons and some of the things you gotta look out for if you're actually interested in the city life. Hi, my name is Aaron, and every week I'm helping new buyers match their lifestyle with where they wanna live. And I'm helping, like I said, buyers every week, some that are moving through, some that are moving within, some that are relocating to the city of Houston. And if you want to know anything about where to eat, sleep, live, play, any of that stuff, I'm your guy. Feel free to shoot me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email, get me on my social media, whatever is the most comfortable to you. I'm your guy. Hit me up anytime, day or night. I would love to take care of you and make sure that you know exactly what's going on in the city and that you make the best decision. So today I actually kind of doing a little bit more of a vlog style today. I have a client that is coming in to this beautiful home in the Independence Heights area, which if you're familiar with the city of Houston, or maybe you don't, the Heights area is one of the most sought out locations in the city. Anything that you want, dining, restaurants, bars, eateries, anything that you want is in the Heights, right? So that's kind of like the gold standard of city life for most people when it comes to living in the city of Houston. And because of that, that comes at a price point. And what you see throughout the city of Houston is just little pockets of places where you can kind of get close to that, but not necessarily pay the price of what it would take to actually live in the Heights. Right now, a new construction in the Heights area will go somewhere between like $450,000 and $500,000 right now, and that's just not feasible for everybody. But there's a bunch of areas kind of hugging the center of the city, and that's so big right now in the Houston area, especially if you're looking for city life. That's so big right now in the city of Houston to kind of find some areas that are a little bit adjacent, but close enough to where you can get the feel, but not necessarily get the price tag. And my wife and I actually bought not too far from this location. And I'll give you some reasons as to why we were looking at it and why we ended up buying not this side of the street, but on the other side. But we live over here. I can actually run to my house and it wouldn't take me that long to get to my house. But one of the things that you kind of have to deal with if you're living or plan to live in the city of Houston, you kind of got to deal with the fact that there's no true zoning if you're in Houston proper. Zoning is bad. And in a previous video, I believe I told you guys that I could walk to an auto store, I could walk to a motel, I could walk to 3 or 4 car washes, and now I'm not lying to you. And I'll try to get some of those in the background behind me, but if you can kind of look over there, there's an auto store or a sketchy car place that I was telling you about. If you go down that way, it's a motel. I know lighting's a little bit bad. I'll probably get some B-roll that I'll put in there. But it's the sacrifice that you deal with when you're dealing with the city. And you gotta ask yourself, whether or not that lifestyle works for you. And it doesn't work for everybody. I know a lot of my clients, even some of my friends that are my age, that are interested in buying, they want something brand new. They want to be in the city, but when it comes down to making the decision to actually buy in the city, the zoning, and they say it different ways, but it really comes down to they really hate the zoning. One of the reasons that why we didn't buy on this side of the street, and this street right here that's not too far from us that I'm off of is off of Shepherd. And if you know anything about Shepherd basically runs from the north of Houston and it runs through the heart of the city. So I don't have to get on the interstate to get to like the medical center or to downtown, midtown kind of area. I don't need the interstate. And that's one of the perks of living in a place like this is that you're pretty much centrally located without having the big price tag. And we were very much so interested. We were actually going to buy a property that's like 2 lots down from this one. And it just ended up taking too long. And then it was a little bit sketchier. In between this property and the house that we were actually going to buy, there's actually like a trailer park there. So I know that's a little bit extreme, but as you get into the city, that kind of, like I said, lack of zoning is one of those things that it happens frequently and more frequently. But what you're buying into is the infrastructure. You gotta see and you gotta have vision that you know that good things are gonna come. So right behind me was at one point abandoned like warehouses and abandoned gas stations that are no longer used, right? You have to believe that residential stuff is going to come there, that grocery stores are going to come there, the infrastructure is going to be here, but it's what you're dealing with in the midst of waiting for that. And most people just aren't naturally willing to do that. And like I said, we're so close to the heights. I could literally run to the heights. It would take me a little while. I'm a little slow. I'm a little chubby at this point. It would take me a while, but I could run to the heights. And for the cost difference of where we live, which is up here on this side of the north side in the Independence Heights area, 6 blocks cost you about $100,000 to $150,000 to get a house that is this beautiful, that has all the modern finishes and fixtures that you would want, has everything you need, comes with the standard warranty, get everything you would want in a new construction home, super beautiful. But making the decision to go a little bit more out of your comfort zone and maybe deal with and be closer to something that's transitioning and revitalizing is not something that everybody wants to do. But it's a decision that you have to be comfortable with making if you plan on living in the city. And this, like I said, this part of being in the city and city life is not uncommon to even those areas that are more established. So even if you get to the heights, let's say you can afford to live in the heights, you know, you're fortunate enough, you have the money to be able to afford to live up there. There's a high possibility that you get this super gorgeous triple stack home. Got a little winded, forgive me. out of shape. But you could have this gorgeous triple stack home that looks just like this one. It'll be $450,000, $500,000. And you walk outside of your house and you look around and you say, oh, we made it. And you see a pawn shop, or you see a liquor store, or you see a tire shop. And it's things that you think you shouldn't see for the amount of money that you're paying. And that's one of the biggest sacrifices. And now we can get into schools and whether or not they're rated well and all of that stuff. We actually bought on the other side of Shepherd that is tied to a really good public school. That was one of the reasons why we decided to go to the other side of Shepherd, right? So it's just these things that you really have to think about, and most people aren't necessarily prepared to have that conversation. And it's a different look up here. Like I said, I think I touched on this in a different video that I did a couple weeks ago, but there's things that you're gonna see up here that you wouldn't see in some of our established suburbs. You wouldn't see the level of homelessness. You wouldn't see the level of, I guess, just distressed buildings around you that haven't had anything or any activity in them. There's things you wouldn't see in a Cinco Ranch or in a Cypress or in the Woodlands. There's just things that you wouldn't see, and you wouldn't be exposed to that even if you're paying about the same amount. But the trade-off to that is, do you want a 45-minute commute on an easy day? Because I just did a drive out to the Woodlands a couple days ago with my wife and my daughter Chandler, and that was not an easy drive to say, you know, like on a day-to-day basis. If you had to work downtown, or if you, even worse, you had to work south of downtown, you're looking at an hour commute from Cypress. You're looking at an hour commute from Acadie. You're looking at an hour commute if you're coming from a Rush Aaron or any of those places around the suburbs that are hugging the outer beltway of Houston. You're looking at an hour to an hour and a half commute on an average day. Lord willing, there's never a wreck. You know, there's never any issues. There's never any lane closures or any of that stuff that you're gonna have to deal with while making that commute. But on a day-to-day basis, do you wanna do that in exchange for the ability to say you feel more safe, or you feel more at home, or you feel more comfortable in your neighborhood, right? So that's one of the biggest trade-offs that comes with living in the city versus living in the suburbs. The next biggest one is for a house that's 300,000. So this one's like 330 right now. For a house that's 330 over here, the tax rates are like 2.5. If you get a 330 house in the suburbs, your tax rate is going to be like bare minimum right now, like 3.3. So you're paying hundreds of dollars more for a perceived safety or perceived amenities, when for everybody, you have to decide whether or not the amenity of actually being able to go to a restaurant or go to a brunch spot or go to, you know, these little exhibits and things that are in the heights or in the middle of the city. There's a certain value to whether or not that is beneficial to your lifestyle that may not work for everybody, you know. And like I said, I have a couple of my clients, a couple of my friends that I've helped move into homes, and they were party goers and all that stuff, but they had kids and they decided that the schools meant more for them, even though their kids aren't even in school age. That's something that they don't want to have to think about, and maybe even have to be forced to sell their current house to move to somewhere that has a better school. So they made the decision to move to the suburbs of Pearland now to fit that future need. And that's a thought that you gotta have. And it really all comes down to budget and lifestyle. I know I keep kind of like beating that same dead horse, but lifestyle is everything. Do you want to be a heavy commuter in such a commuter city? A lot of people make that choice based on perceived safety, amenities, lakes, walking trails, and things that you don't necessarily or won't ever get in the city. That's one knock that I would say about living in the city, is that if you're not like close to the bayou, there's really not infrastructures for you unless you're in the neighborhood that had like a old park that's already established, which we got lucky on the other side of Shepherd. So there's pluses and minuses of living over here. You know, I would say that we bought over here because the pluses also outweighed the minuses for me. For me, I grew up in a not so great area in the Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I grew up we were safe. I never had any issues, but if you look up the zip code that I grew up in, it wasn't the best. But even still, I would not want to put my wife in danger and my daughter in danger, right? So I'm going to make a smart decision. And the decision for us was to choose city life. We still got a lot of life in us. We're willing to go. We want to go to those brunch spots. We want to not have such a long drive after we have a little fun. We want to still be able to be a quick Uber ride away, you know, $5, $10 max is kind of where we are. And we picked the perfect spot for that. And we're willing to sit out the growing pains of waiting for that to transition. And it's already paying off. You know, we bought here probably about 15, 16 months ago now. And literally we were one of the first kind of new construction suburbs or subdivisions that were up here. And now there's like 20 of them. And we bought in at $265. And now the starting price is like $350 up here, $325, $350. So just within that short of a time frame, we've already just killed it up here. We're basically printing money just because we're willing to sit through the transition, which a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable doing. So that's one of the hugest advantages to actually just living in the city, is that 9 times out of 10, you get a much faster appreciation than you would if you were to go to somewhere that's already established, like some of these Cinco Ranches or Bridgelands or any of these places that are more established, that you kind of know the name, and they got the great schools and they got all that stuff, but the appreciation is going to be much slower than someone like myself that bought somewhere and was willing to sit out the transition. So like I said, every week I'm helping buyers choose between lifestyle and where they want to live, match those up to the best of my abilities. If you have any questions at all about moving to Houston, transitioning to Houston, relocating within Houston, any of that stuff, you want to know anything about where to eat, sleep, live, play, any of that stuff, I'm your guy. Hit me up, shoot me a text, give me a call. All that information is going to be in the description box below. Also, if this was a video that was useful to you, give me a like. Hit that subscribe button. I'm doing videos every week, and I look forward to hearing from you. See you next time.